people, it's your girl Minna. Welcome back to the channel. You already know what it is, man. Big up to everyone locked in on this wonderful Friday afternoon. I hope you lot are all doing well. Europa League draw is out. Champions League draw is out as well. We're going to talk about that, even though United are not in the Champions League. Still, I feel like, you know, there's some fixtures in that we could talk about. But of course, we're going to talk about Europa League draw for Manchester United. And sometimes I feel like, guys, I should just shut my mouth. Sometimes I should really just shut my mouth, because a couple of weeks ago I sat here on stream and I said that I could see United getting Real Sociedad. And lo and behold, Manchester United get Real Sociedad. If you don't remember, we actually played them in the group stages of Europa League in Erik ten Hag's first season. We lost the first leg 1-0 due to a penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty, and then we won, I think, the second game when Garnacho scored. But then that ended up resulting in us finishing second, which meant that we played an extra game. It was a madness. It was a madness. But Manchester United's kryptonite in Europa League, or just in Europe maybe over the last 10 years, excuse me, seems to be Spanish teams. Spanish teams seem to be what United struggle against. I think Barcelona is like the only one that United have come up against in a European competition of recent years and actually beat. So we're going to talk about the Real Sociedad draw. What does that mean for Manchester United? Most importantly, the side of the bracket that Manchester United is on, I think, is actually the tougher side of the bracket. You got Roma, you got Lyon, you got quite a few. You got Fenerbahce, you got quite a few good teams on that side of the bracket for the path to the final. Despite that, I still think United should get to the final. I think Ruben Amorim has to, you know, if he wants to save time in terms of, not getting the sack, he needs to win. He needs to win. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ineos 1 year in. It's officially 1 year since the ratification of Ineos's takeover, 27% takeover of Manchester United. And as always, guys, no matter what happens, if it's not players giving us stuff to talk about, it seems to be Ineos giving us stuff to talk about, because the last couple of days the PR for Ineos has been in the mud. If there's been any PR, especially in the media, it's been a very bad one for them. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to kind of rank where we feel like Ineos stand 1 year in as you know, minority owners of Manchester United. We're going to talk about the Glazonomic side of stuff, and also we're also going to talk about Paul Pogba, because why is that story popping up again? Why is that story popping up again about Paul Pogba? Maybe it's just his team putting out stories. Maybe it's people just creating stories out of thin air. And last but not least, obviously, we're going to talk about the Everton preview tomorrow, 12:30 kickoff at Goodison Park. Firstly, guys, can I just say, first and foremost, it is never a good sign for Man United to play at 12:30 on a Saturday. I hate 12:30 kickoffs. The last time I watched an entertaining Man United 12:30 kickoff, I genuinely cannot remember. I do not like 12:30 kickoffs. And on top of that, I wouldn't want it against Everton. Definitely not against Everton. The last Manchester United-Everton game at Goodison Park. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to preview it, talk about injuries, players returning, etc., etc., and Ruben Amorim's comments ahead of the game. So be sure to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe as well. Starting away is good for United. I guess, yeah, getting the away leg out of the way first could be a positive sign, given the fact that Manchester United are clearly struggling at home. But equally, guys, let's be honest, Manchester United haven't really been blowing teams out of the water in Europa this season. Like in the group stages, despite the fact that United are unbeaten in the group stages, we've been conceding every single game, firstly. Every single game we've been conceding. We've been making games difficult for ourselves. I can't remember. Maybe Victoria Pleasant is the only game that I think where United could have come out on top a lot more than what the scoreline kind of suggested. But United haven't been this dominating factor in Europa. So, yeah, I don't know, man. 12:30 kickoffs only makes sense if it's local. Looking at you geniuses who scheduled Bournemouth away at Newcastle, yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, that was absolutely absurd. What's that, like a 6-hour trip? I think from Bournemouth away at Newcastle. I think it's like 6 hours on a drive, or maybe 7. I think it's even more than that. All I know is that you're spending more time on the road than you are at the stadium. What an opportunity. The fact no teams drop out of Champions League and enter Europa, but United are just awful now. I think people are happy, of course, about the fact that teams don't drop out of Champions League into Europa. But can I just say, guys, everyone's been talking about this new kind of format for Champions League and Europa. Do you guys actually like it? Because I was looking at today's draws in the Champions League, and I'm laughing because Liverpool finished first, right? Liverpool finished first in the Champions League, and on top of that, they end up drawing with PSG. Like I like that, but I know a lot of Liverpool fans don't like that because obviously, if you the whole point of trying to finish top is to get the easier draws. But for me, as a neutral who's watching that, and I'm looking at the brackets in the Champions League, I'm thinking that's good. And also, what I like is the fact that you can kind of see ahead what your path is. Whereas, before it was a draw for each kind of knockout until you get to the quarters, they would do the semis draw as well. So, but at that point, you'd know your path to the final. At least this time, from the round of 16, you know your path to the final, which is a good thing. But also, can I just say, please, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because I'm seeing people talking about, oh my God, if we beat this, we get this, and oh my God, if we get to this, we get. Let's just focus on one fixture at a time, because we're not even guaranteed to beat Sociedad. Why are we thinking about Lyon and Roma and whatever other teams that could come on our horizon? Let's just focus on the journey ahead of us, the problem ahead of us, which is Sociedad. Sociedad, a bad draw in my opinion. United and English sides historically have a bad record against Spanish sides. Sociedad, can I say, is not a bad team. Let me just put that out there. People see a team in Europa League and think, ooh, this is going to be a fair matchup to us. They actually, I would say they got a better midfield than United. And you lot might think I'm being, absurd, but they've actually got a better midfield than United if they have a full team. But anyways, let's actually get into the conversation. Let's look at the draw for Manchester United in the Europa League. Be sure to hit the like button, guys, if you've just come through on this wonderful Friday afternoon. The stream is a bit earlier than usual, but you know what? It means that I can stream for a lot longer. So this is the phase, the phase for the Europa League. This is what United's kind of path is looking like. Now, it's so jokes, yeah, because I've seen people. Do I look dark, guys? Do I need to turn up I feel like I need to turn up the brightness. I need to change my camera setting because it's moving a bit. There you go. Nope, that's too bright. There you go. Yeah, that's better. What the hell? That is way better. All right, let's look at the right hand side, because obviously that's the side United are on. If you guys can't see here, Manchester United versus Real Sociedad. But there's no easy team on this side, guys. Let me just say that to you lot now. There is no easy team. And this is why I say I don't know how people are looking ahead and thinking, when we beat Sociedad, we will get this team. There is no easy team for Manchester United on the right-hand side. Let me just put it like that. And if you guys genuinely think maybe FCSB, if they somehow magically manage to beat Lyon, then Manchester United magically managed to beat Sociedad. If Jose Mourinho, guys, now this is just, if football was for storylines, yeah, but if football was for storylines and Jose Mourinho here with Fenerbahce manages to beat Rangers and they meet Roma in the next round, and hypothetically, because bare hypotheticals here, Manchester United get to the semis, it is possible that Jose Mourinho could play every team that he's managed in the Europa League. If even Spurs got to the final, say hypothetically speaking, Fenerbahce beat Rangers, they beat Roma, they beat United, they get to the final and they meet Spurs. Hypothetical, right? Because I said Spurs. It could be possible that Jose Mourinho meets every former team of his on that path. Now, that is very unlikely. Like I said, it's hypothetical because there's a lot of there's a lot of factors that have to happen for it to take place. But let this be no secret, guys. Please, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Manchester United do not have the most easiest draw, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because of Manchester United's record against Spanish teams, number one. Number two, I've said it already, Manchester United haven't been beating teams convincingly in the Europa League. If we look at Man United's Europa League results so far this season, right? 1-1 against Fenerbahce. Wait, hold on. Let me go all the way back. 1-1 against Fenerbahce. 2-0 against PAOK. I can't remember what their name was. We just about beat Bodo Glimt, just about beat Victoria Pleasant. We just about beat Rangers. We drew with Porto, and we beat FCSP quite comfortably. So we had 2 clean sheets in the whole Europa League campaign. However, I don't think, thinking back to those games, that any of those results were convincing, dominating performances. If you don't agree with me and you feel like United did dominate, please do let me know. I don't think people are overlooking Real Sociedad, but it's human nature to want the easier route. It's preferable we got AZ. I did think that we might have got AZ, but can I just say, if we had got AZ Alkmaar, yeah, just again hypothetical, right? On this other side of the bracket over here, if we were Spurs and we got AZ Alkmaar, I promise you guys, Frankfurt Ajax wouldn't have been easy games either. The only thing that I can say about Lyon is that they've lost quite a few important players in the January transfer window, but they still got a decent team. They still got a well-coached team, even though they're not, that exciting in the French league. They still got decent players. They got Ryan Cherki that would probably cause a lot of problems for Manchester United's backline. Call me crazy. Big up to Z, by the way. Call me crazy, but I'd rather our side of the draw than Spurs. I don't think either side is really like, with the Champions League. And we're gonna talk about the Champions League just briefly, but with the Champions League, I think there's an easier side on one bracket than the other side, right? With this, I don't think either side is easy. I think Lazio's a good team. You got Frankfurt on this side, Spurs, you got Ajax on this side, you got Roma, you got Fenerbahce, you got Athletic, you got Lyon, you got Sociedad. I think it's quite balanced, and that's why I think a winner could come from either side. However, I will say that I do think a lot of people expect Manchester United to get to the final just because it's Manchester United, just because people look at Europa League, like obviously I'm going to say Europa League is the I don't want to say the crapper competition, but people look at it like it's the crapper competition than the Champions League. But there's no easy teams in Europa League. I think if anything, if United were in Conference League, I would say 100% United have to win it. That's why I think Chelsea have to win the Conference League. But Europa League, I think on their day, there are some good teams tactically, technically. We can't overlook that. Teams that probably have gelled better and are kind of maneuvering the season a lot better than what Manchester United are. And that's just me being really honest. If Man United could get a run of games over the next couple of weeks leading up to the first leg of Europa League that allows them to go into this game against Sociedad a lot more kind of comfortable and a lot more kind of, optimistic, then maybe I could be like, you know what? The path to the final is potentially there. But if we're looking at Man United's fixtures, guys, just quickly, Man United's fixtures coming up to the first two games, of this, we got Everton, and then we got Ipswich in the league, and then we got Fulham, and then we got midweek game of Europa League against Sociedad, and then we got Arsenal, and then we got another midweek. So we got the Europa League on back-to-back weeks or whatever, and then we've got Arsenal in between it. Manchester United, Ipswich and Everton, Man United need to get some form, and Fulham for the FA Cup. That is just, let me just actually bring up that on the screen so you lot can see it. Have they updated this with the fixture list? Yeah, they did. Okay, so this is United's fixture list, guys. This is just, let me just zoom in a little bit so you lot can see better. This is United's fixture list, guys, for the next couple of games. And that's what I'm saying. We need a run of games. We haven't won, 3 games in a row this season in the league. I don't even think we've won 5 games in a row or got a result 5 games in a row this season, let alone under Ruben Amorim. So tomorrow's game against Everton, like I say all the time, 12:30, spooky times. Ipswich midweek, another midweek game. Bear in mind, Ipswich for me will be a telling sign under Ruben Amorim to see what he's learned, because Ipswich was his first game in charge of Manchester United. So I genuinely think next week against Ipswich at home, that will be a telling sign for me about Ruben Amorim as to whether he's learnt anything from his first game to this game against Ipswich. Because that first game against Ipswich, I feel like he probably went into it a lot more pragmatic, because obviously it's your first game in charge. You don't really know the league. You don't really know the opponent too tough. You don't really know your players. But now It's been 20 plus games. So the next time you kind of come across Ipswich, you should approach it a lot better than your first game against them. So that for me, I will look at that as a kind of opportunity to understand whether he's learned anything from his first game. Then we got Fulham in the FA Cup, which is 2 games on the bounce at home, followed by the first game away. And that's what I was saying, guys. Look at this. We are sandwiched in between the Arsenal game with the Europa League game. If United keep having these injury issues that they're having, and maybe the injury crisis gets worse, who's to say that we will be in a good position by the time that first game against Sociedad comes up? Let me see what you lot will say. Big up to Dipesh says Real Sociedad won't be easy. United could very easily go out there. I genuinely think we could, but also I think we could win. But that's the thing with United, you just don't know what you're gonna get. Big up to Show says, Minna, we lose even when we play once a week. Twice a week makes no difference. No match is going to be easy. There's a reason these teams are in Europa, and every one of them have got a weakness. That is valid. I want 3 points versus Arsenal without their forwards. We need points. I don't care if they are better than us. Let me ask you lot a question, yeah? And this is just a hypothetical question. United play Sociedad twice, and they play Arsenal in between that. Would you rather beat Sociedad and lose to Arsenal? Say United lose 2-0 to Arsenal at home, but we draw against Sociedad away, and then we come back to Old Trafford and we win, or vice versa. Would you not prefer that, or would you prefer to wallop Arsenal, say 3-1 at home, hypothetically speaking, again, because I don't know how likely it is, but 3-1 United, and say we lose against Sociedad and we draw against Sociedad, so we're out of Europa? Which one would you lot prefer? Because I know what I would prefer. And I know there's some people out there that might even say, you know what, let's ruin Arsenal's title hopes. But why would you want to ruin Arsenal's title hopes in the process of ruining your own trophy hopes? It does kind of worry me, though. I'm not going to lie, guys. It does kind of worry me, United's injury situation leading into these games. Look at the month of March. By the way, why can't we have both? Listen, if United can go on and win 3 games on the bounce in all competitions by beating Sociedad twice and beating Arsenal, damn. Z said, I'll take the L to Sociedad. Sorry, I want to beat Arsenal. Nah, man, I don't know. Personally, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I want to lose to Arsenal. But if you're talking Europa League, which gives you a hope of winning something, versus, by the way, I don't think winning a trophy is the end all or be all for Ruben Amorim, but I do think that winning a trophy is an important thing for him in terms of being able to buy himself time to get to the summer. Because if United crash out of the group stages so early on, not the group stages, sorry, the knockout rounds so early on, is peak. Let's look at Champions League, guys, just quickly, because I actually think there's some really good matchups in the Champions League. First and foremost, I feel like it's a lot more imbalanced in comparison to the Europa League. And this is what I was talking about earlier, the fact that Liverpool finished top of the league in the Champions League, and they end up drawing PSG. This is what this whole this new format is all about. I think it's about creating big matchups from early on. We had big matchups in the league phase. We got big matchups in the round of 16. I'm not gonna lie, guys. These kind of matchups you would have seen at like semis, like PSG versus Liverpool, Real Madrid versus Atletico. I would have expected to see that in the semi-finals of the Champions League. But we got that already in the round of 16. Who's your winners? Because I'm looking at this, I'm thinking Barcelona's path to the final. The only thing that I think is stopping Barcelona's path to the final is if they come up against Inter or Bayer Leverkusen. That's what I think. I don't even think Bayern Munich are going to beat Bayer Leverkusen, personally. I actually think Vincent Kompany is going to crash out against Bayer Leverkusen. But I do think Barcelona against Dortmund and Lille, I'm taking Barcelona any day. The only thing with Barcelona, though, having watched them quite a lot this season, I think they really struggle against low block teams. Like, I feel like against low block teams, they just cannot get past it. And if they do, it has to be through like a lucky opportunity. However, with saying that, a part of me thinks Barcelona might win or at least get to the final. Now, I think UEFA's dream is probably to have a Real Madrid-Barcelona final. I think that is UEFA's dream. But I'm looking at the bracket on the other side, and I'm thinking Villa could get to a quarters of a Champions League. Damn. It'll probably this PSG Liverpool game is going to be a good game. Real Madrid versus Atletico will be a good game. Arsenal versus PSV will be a good game. If Arsenal get through and they get past PSV and they got Real Madrid or Atletico waiting for them, that's spooky, guys. That is spooky for them, I can't lie. Especially if players are just returning back from injury at that point of the knockout stages, because you don't want to throw in a not match ready Bukayo Saka or Martinelli or something into a game like that. Especially, I think the second leg will be at Madrid. So that's very interesting. But in terms of the final, I think it's anyone's game. I don't think it's like Europa. I think Champions League is anybody's game. Anyone could get to the final. I wouldn't mind it being a El Clasico, but given what Barcelona have done to Real Madrid this season so far, both in the La Liga and in the Super Cup, I don't think Real Madrid want to see Barcelona in the final personally, because they actually play El Clasico. I think it's on like the 11th of May, excuse me. So if they were to get them in the final, they'd play them a couple of weeks later again. And I really think that Barcelona high line, Real Madrid ain't found an answer to it yet. So I don't know about them two seeing each other in the final. I just, personally, I don't want to see a team like, this is my personal opinion, but I don't want to see a team like Dortmund in the final. No disrespect to Dortmund fans. I mean this with the utmost respect. I do not want to see Dortmund in the final. I don't even want to see them in the semis. I hope they lose to Lille. I hope they lose to Lille. Bayern and Leverkusen. I think Leverkusen will come out on top. Feyenoord versus Inter. I think Inter will come out on top. I actually think Inter could go all the way to the final as well. And Aston Villa Club Brugge. I think it won't be that bad of a game. I think Aston Villa might come out on top, but I think Club Brugge might have something for them. PSG versus Liverpool. I can see a Luis Enrique upset on the cards. You know, that Liverpool front line is good. They are immense. They are quality. But equally, I think that PSG team is starting to gel very, very well, especially that front line. You think Leverkusen beat Bayern? A part of me thinks so. Yeah, I can't lie. A part of me thinks that Leverkusen could beat Bayern. I don't want to see Bayern in the final either. I like Elise. I like Musiala. Probably that's all I like from Bayern. I'm trying to think. Who else do I like? Musiala. I like Elise. Probably that's it. I don't really like anyone. Kim Min-jae and Upamecano. Yeah. Leverkusen got something for them. Leverkusen has something for them. The last Bayern and Leverkusen match was horrible. Bro, I turned it off at the 50th minute. PSG, dead food. Liverpool beat them home and away. You think so? Diego team defend like mad dog with rabies. That's what I'm saying. That Real Madrid game, it's not, people are going to expect goals galore. This season that Atletico and Real Madrid have come across each other, I think they've played each other twice now. Bro, if you lot watch those games, Atletico were defending for their lives and hitting Madrid on counter, and they got a penalty a couple of weeks ago, which I don't think should have been a penalty, but they got the penalty. And last time, I think they equalized last minute against them. So Real Madrid versus Atletico, Madrid derby, I don't expect it to be a goal fest. But what I do know is Atletico and Diego Simeone is going to frustrate the hell out of Real Madrid. And the thing is, Bellingham is missing that the first game. He's missing the first leg of that. And he's also missing their game this weekend as well against Girona. If Atletico can exploit that in a way, I think and it depends on how Ancelotti counters the absence of Bellingham. Who does he play in that replacement position for him? Because I'm not going to lie, I like Fede Valverde. Fede Valverde is probably my favorite player at Real Madrid. And this right back position that he's kind of finding himself in, I like it. Maybe against a more dominant wingers, it might not be as easy for him. But in terms of getting forward and having that Real Madrid having that option of ball progression from the wide channels consistently, I like it. I'm not gonna lie. Dembele, Cavara, Bacola, Doué problems, and they're gelling very well. They're gelling very, very well. PSG midfield or Liverpool's midfield? Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, Gravenberch. You got Gravenberch, you got McAllister, you got Szoboszlai. And then Real Madrid, you got Vitinha, you got Fabian Ruiz, you got João Neves. That's actually hard, you know, because I saw PSG midfield absolutely run riot against City, but not gonna lie, it's City in it. This season, City is not that great. But I'm looking forward to what Gravenberch does against, you know, Vitinha and João Neves, because, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. I think they might be balanced. I don't know. I think that might be a balanced midfield, guys, you know. Zaire Emery off the bench as well. That's valid. I think McAllister is not, I don't want to say underrated this season. I think he's underappreciated this season. I actually think he's top 10 midfielders in the Premier League this season. And don't cook me, guys, because I know I shouldn't praise a Liverpool player, but I do think he's a very integral part. But I also think what allows McAllister to play so well for Liverpool is having Gravenberch as the base in your midfield. Like that, without Gravenberch, I feel like the Liverpool midfield would not be able to do as well as they're actually doing. But anyway, guys, man, enough about Champions League. Let's talk about more sad stuff. Let's why are we talking about football and, you know, having good conversation? Let's talk about Ineos. Let's talk about Ineos. Let's talk about Omar Barada. Let's talk about Jim Ratcliffe. Let's talk about Dave Brailsford and his marginal gains. If I hear marginal gains one more time, yeah, I might just, I cannot hear that term again. I'm sorry, yeah, but genuine question, yeah. What does Dave Brailsford know about football? Just like out of curiosity, what does he know about football and the concept of marginal gains in football? What? Because what did they do? They refurbished the tunnel and they made it black with like red lines. Marginal gains. There's marginal paint. It's not marginal gains. Anyways, on the topic of Omar Barada, because let's just start there. Omar Barada reportedly has launched the investigation into Old Trafford leaks and has warned United staff in a bombshell email that revealing club information will be considered gross misconduct, which could get them sacked. Staff were also told that additional measures are now being put in place to prevent the details of changes being released before official announcements. You know what makes it so funny, guys, is that this has been leaked. So an email was sent out about leaks, and the email has been leaked. I mean, the joke's just write itself at this point. Manchester United cannot keep a secret. How are you writing an email about leaks that is getting leaked? It's actually pretty funny. But let's talk about Ineos. Because I don't think there's not really much attention for me personally to pay on that email in it. There's not really much to talk about in that instance. But the Telegraph yesterday, I don't know if you lot saw it, Telegraph dropped a bombshell of an article 1 year in since Ineos's takeover has been ratified by the Premier League. Officially 1 year, 27.7% ownership. And I want to know what you lot think about Ineos's time at Manchester United, considering all the factors. I think it's important to consider the factor in terms of what they've walked into, the Glazonomics of the situation, the financial situation at Manchester United. I think that's the most important thing to kind of factor in. But equally, you know, the appointments on and off the pitch, Eric Ten Hag's situation, Omar Barada's situation, Dan Ashworth's situation, the transfer window, all the kind of financial cuts that are happening, and we're going to talk about all of them because quite a few stuff has come to light. I want to hear what everybody thinks about it, so be sure to get involved down below in the chat, and I'm going to try my best to kind of bring up everybody's comments on here. Now, I'm going to start with the biggest part. And this is the one about Kathy Phillips. Because I read this, guys, and I couldn't believe it. Now, it was reported that Kath Phipps, former Manchester United receptionist who passed away, that her next of kin listed on her details at the club had received a call from the club 2 days after her death to inquire about the status of 2 of her season tickets. Manchester United have then gone on to say that it was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding, and there has been no request to recall her ticket. You're telling me someone at the Manchester United ticket office, yeah? Because they call people all the time, right? I get calls from them all the time. They're like to me, oh, I see you on a waiting list. Do you want to pay £500 deposit to go further up the waiting list? Piss off, I'm not paying a £500 deposit. But I get calls from them all the time. But you're telling me they didn't see the name and think, yeah, it wouldn't be wise of me to call 2 days after her death. Anyways, that is the first one. The second one, Ratcliffe reportedly has a tight grip on outgoings, and it even extends to the CEO of the club in Omar Barada, whose sign-off for payments at the club only goes up to £25,000. Payments above that must require approval from the ownership group. Now, I've worked in corporate world, guys. I've worked in corporate finance. For a CEO to only have 25k approval limit is madness. I've seen partners, not CEOs, but I've seen like execs at companies having a 100k sign off level. Now, I don't know what the reason for this could be, but maybe it could be for Jim Ratcliffe to have a bit more control about everything. Now, for someone who brought the club and sold this idea of what did he sell? This whole appointing the best in class. It doesn't sound like he trusts the best in class, because it sounds like he has a lot of involvement himself. Brailsford, they seem to have a lot of involvement for people that said that they were going to just hire the best in class at the club. I don't know if you lot feel the same. Big up to Brian with the super set. Says big up Minna and chat. PR League a disgrace. Big up Brian. I hope you're doing well. Now I know some people don't see that as a kind of red flag, but it does kind of seem that a lot of the I do think what's the term? I do think Jim Ratcliffe's too involved. Let me just put it like that. I do think that Jim Ratcliffe is way too involved, whether it's on a PR perspective in the media, whether it's from, the leaks and the reports, and, he seems to have his fingers in a lot of the pies at the club right now in terms of the decision making. Excuse me. What is the point of hiring the best in class? What is the point of bringing in a CEO, a COO, a CMO, all of those, chief executives, if essentially the decisions come and fall at your feet at the end of the day? The whole point of appointing a CEO is so that you don't make those decisions. You're an owner. You just own the club. When there's huge decisions to be made, then, you trigger it. You make that decision. But I feel like Jim Ratcliffe is heavily involved with the day-to-day running of Manchester United. Now, reportedly, Jim Ratcliffe has implemented a zero-based budgeting policy at the club, which every single item of expenditure is scrutinized in an attempt to drive down the cost. Now, we already know the financial situation that United find themselves in, and I call it Glazonomics. We all call it Glazonomics. That is the harsh truth. Ineos have inherited a financial shit show, and we're going to talk about that and how it kind of influences United's decision making. But reportedly, cartons of screws. Now, I don't know if Ducker at the Telegraph is taking the piss or this is legit. Everything at Manchester United is being counted, included screws are being individually counted by the group property services at Manchester United to make sure that there's the right number of screws in a box, it hasn't been taken, etc., etc. Staff have also noted how the portion sizes in the canteen at Old Trafford are now smaller and there's less variety, and bulk orders of vegetables at Carrington require sign-off. You have to be taking, come on, you have to be taking the piss. Man can't even order bulk vegetables. You can't even order bulk vegetables now. What's that guy? That shave, Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver wouldn't be happy about this if he heard what Jim Ratcliffe was doing. One employee joked, this ain't funny, but one employee joked that it would be easier to smuggle drugs than to send a letter, as envelopes are scarce, stamps are expensive, and the emphasis very much on email. So they're being encouraged. Digital helps the world, I don't know. In this day and age, people sending letters is, I don't know. I haven't sent a letter in a long time. But they're being encouraged to send emails because stamps are quite expensive, and they are. Back in the day, I remember stamps used to be like 50. A first class stamp used to be like 50p. One day I went to the shop and I bought a first class stamp for £2. I don't know, Jim Ratcliffe. Low key, I hear it. Low key, I hear it. However, this is where, for me, the kind of decisions that impact Manchester United players, I kind of look at it a bit sideways from Ineos, because Manchester United women's players, and I know some people don't watch the women's team. I know some people are not familiar with the women's team, but you know, Manchester United's women players were given a small number of tickets for their own FA Cup final. So Manchester United women reached the FA Cup final at the end of last season. They went on to win it, and they were given a small number of ticket allocations. When Bruno Fernandes, shout out Bruno, and Tom Heaton, shout out Tom Heaton, when they heard about this, they covered the cost of additional tickets using money from dressing room fines. So most clubs, what they have is a pot for like dressing room fines. So if you're late, if you're this, if you're that, you get fined. And then, you know, at the end of the season, they usually use that to go towards something. Bruno Fernandes and Tom Heaton pushed for that to be used to allow Manchester United women to get additional tickets so that they could have their family and their friends at the FA Cup final, which they ended up winning, which Jim Ratcliffe did not end up attending. They also, Bruno Fernandes also pushed the initiative to pay for transportation for staff at Manchester United to attend the men's FA Cup final, as Ineos suggested or implemented a rule that required £20 contribution from staff if they wanted to travel down to London for the FA Cup final. The club, however, rejected Bruno's request for him to cover it from his own pocket, as they felt that it would look bad on them at the end of the day. Well, the fact that they rejected it made them look bad anyways. So I actually think either way, it's made the Manchester United decision makers look bad, because he offered to pay for staff to attend, for staff to travel down, to London for the FA Cup final. That would have made you look bad. But it made you probably look even worse now in the eyes of many people that you rejected that because you did not want to look bad. So rather than rectifying the situation and covering expenses for the employees, and by the way, Ineos said that this was to cut costs. It saved them £6,000. £6,000. Now, to me, a commoner like me, 6,000 is a lot, guys. £6,000 is a lot of money. If anyone wants to send me a £6,000 super chat, you're more than welcome to. But to a club like Manchester United, to owners like Ineos, to an owner or minority owner like Jim Ratcliffe, 6k is not a lot, given the fact that reportedly staff felt disappointed and upset when they saw Manchester United executives rolling up in luxury cars, etc., etc. They pull up in, I don't know what cars they actually pull up in, because I've never seen them arriving outside of the stadium. Normally I see them inside the stadium. But it's also taken into consideration the fact that Avram Glazer arrived at both FA Cups back-to-back years in a private jet. $250 for the private jet. And all his expenses during the FA Cup time in London. On top of that, you cut 6k of costs. Who's really suffering from this? It's not the execs, because at the end of the day, they are still doing what they want. They are still, traveling in the mode of transport that they want. And by the way, the 250,000 for the private jet for the Glazers, they issued that cost to the club. So it didn't come out their own pocket. You know the Glazers, right? This is how millionaires stay rich. I deeped it. This is actually how millionaires stay rich. Because the Glazers, anytime they spend anything to do with the club, if they're doing anything for Manchester United, they allocate the cost to Manchester United. They don't pay it from their own pocket. When they were selling this 27.7% to Ineos, all of the legal and advisory fees that they paid to their advisors, and I think it was in and around the region of 40 million. It's on the club's books. They didn't pay for it from their pocket because they don't have to. Glazers found a loophole. And it's so funny that now it's actually the government have banned clubs from taking over football. The government have banned people from buying football clubs in the way that the Glazers did because of how unethical, if you want to call it, how unethical it was at the time. And at the time, fans were against it. You know, fans were writing letters, having meetings with, you know, government officials, and they were just like, yeah, it is what it is. But now, 20 years later, Man United are still suffering financially. Manchester United, let's put numbers on it, guys. Let's actually put numbers on it when it comes to what the Glazers have done at Manchester United. They've brought the club for about 700, I think it was like 790 million pounds. That was what they paid to take over Manchester United. 787 million of that debt is on the club right now. The Glazers only paid about 3 million out of their own pocket. The rest, they allocated the debt to the club. Of that debt, I think less than 50 million has actually been paid off. On top of that, the interest accumulated has been near enough to $1 billion. Because 20 years, do the maths, guys, 20 years on a higher interest rate that increases time and time, it's a lot of money. So including that interest plus the debt of 700 and something million, there's over $1 billion in debt at Manchester United just from the Glazers takeover. Now, I don't know if you lot remember, but when Sheikh Jassim was reportedly bidding for Manchester United, the Qatar takeover was a 100% takeover suggested. But even within that, they were including this they were including the debt that they were going to wipe. And the Glazers didn't want that because the Glazers only just wanted to line up their pockets with money. So they don't essentially care about what you are going to do for Manchester United because they themselves financially don't care about Manchester United. It's a cash cow for them. However much they can benefit from it financially is however long they're going to stay around. And Jim Ratcliffe gave them the financial benefit in terms of staying at the club, no longer being the face of it, so fans are going to forget about them. And now Jim Ratcliffe is in the firing line for the Glazers, and they still get their money at the end of the day. And they only sold a small percentage, and they walked away with billions. Whereas, you know, the Qatar offer, whether people felt like it was a legit offer and it was a legit person, quotation mark, that offer was never something that I think the Glazers would have accepted because the Glazers, I don't think, ever wanted to sell. And the package that the Qataris were offering at the time was a package that benefited the club more than it benefited the Glazers. They were offering their little 4 billion, plus the money they were going to spend on the stadium and plus the money that they were going to spend on debt, right? And they packaged that as a whole package. So the package might have been 7 billion, but really not all of that 7 billion was ever going to go to the Glazers. And the Glazers didn't want that. The Glazers didn't want to know how much money you're going to inject into the club. They don't care about that stuff. Oh, you're going to wipe the debt that we put into the club. We don't care. How much money are you going to give us? The Glazers they were aiming to get up to 10 billion from the Qataris. The Qataris were never going to pay that. They were never going to pay that because that 10 billion plus wiping the debt, plus a new stadium, plus, you know, refurbishing the training grounds, etc., etc. They were never, ever going to do that. And that's why I always say Jim Ratcliffe offered the Glazers a lifeline. Now, it's actually been reported that there is no guarantee that there could be a long-term takeover for Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe. And if the Glazers choose to sell next year, I think in their contract reportedly that they agreed with Ineos, if the Glazers choose to sell at any point, they could actually force Ineos to sell their shares as well. And there's no guarantee, actually, that Ineos can buy the club from the Glazers if the Glazers choose to sell. Now, will the Glazers sell? I mean, Avram Glazer was talking on Sky the other day, and I think he was being chased down in an interview, but he was saying he has no intention to sell because they can't ever sit on television and say, yeah, we're going to sell the club. But the fact that the Glazers never wanted Manchester United to go to Tampa Bay to see the Buccaneers training ground because they don't want them to get jealous, that says a lot. That says a lot. I think Manchester United has always been a financial gain for the Glazers, and it's been kind of evident. But with Ineos' situation, I look at it and I do look at the finance aspects that they've inherited from the Glazers. But equally with saying that, I don't think they've made good decisions. I don't think Jim Ratcliffe has made good decisions. I don't think Dave Brailsford has made good decisions that I can say, you know what, the criticism is not warranted. The criticism is warranted because it was reported that they spent 14.5 million to dismiss Erik ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. That doesn't even include the money that they paid to bring Dan Ashworth in. That doesn't include the money that they paid to get Ruben Amorim in. I think altogether, it's about maybe 30 or just under 30 million for all of those decisions, bringing Ruben Amorim in, sacking Ten Hag, paying Dan Ashworth to leave Newcastle, and then also sacking him as well. I think it's about just under 30 million. And that's 30 million that United never had to spend. United did not have 30 million to spend, if we're being honest. You look at, let's actually look at, oh shit. All this waffling and I forgot to put this up on the screen. This is transfer fees payable for Manchester United for the Premier League, across the Premier League right now, as of this season. What do you guys see that is the biggest kind of telling factor? The biggest telling factor for me is that Manchester United have, by the way, over 300 million in transfer fees still due. I think as of 2024, it was at 414, but now it's at like 350. Manchester United also tend to, especially under Ineos, they tend to negotiate transfers that allow Manchester United to pay in installments. That is another thing. That is another factor if you want to say that. Because Manchester United cannot afford to pay transfers up front. I mean, even though it's not hundreds, it's not millions, they paid slightly more for Joshua Zirkzee rather than the release clause so that they could spread the cost over a couple of years, because financially Manchester United did not have the cash to pay it up front. Now, have Ineos done anything worthy of slight praise? Yeah, they've injected $300 million into the club, and if they had not done that, United would have been sitting on less than 10 million in cash by Q2 of the financial year. And that's the most recent financial numbers you lot are probably seeing, is the Q2 results of the financial year. But that necessarily, in my opinion, does not take away from the fact that Ineos have made poor financial decisions. And that is why I cannot get behind this idea of ticket prices. By the way, not only has ticket prices increased this season, £66 per ticket, under 16s and over 65s do not get any discounts as they used to. But on top of that, season ticket prices are increasing as well. And then on top of that, you're looking at all of the jobs being lost. Ineos came in and said that they were going to create hundreds of jobs. This whole idea of building a stadium, is going to build and create thousands of jobs locally. That is what their selling point is, by getting the government to back this regeneration of the Old Trafford area. Is going to create thousands of jobs, local jobs, so the local job market will be booming. But in that same breath, you are also cutting jobs for the average working class people of Manchester. Now, someone actually tweeted me, because I was tweeting about it a couple of days ago, and someone actually said to me, United hire way too many people in comparison to other clubs. And, they're only getting rid of people that they feel like Manchester United don't need. Apparently the workforce at Manchester United is nearly double of what is at City. City's, I think, journey in that has been near enough to 15 years in the making? If your first thing to come into Manchester United and the first thing you do is cut jobs, it's going to leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth. Ineos' plan is to make us pay for the new stadium. I mean, I remember reading an article on The Athletic that suggested that, I don't think it's going to happen, but it suggested that Jim Ratcliffe was lobbying American billionaires to invest in the new stadium. And two people that he contacted reportedly, this is just reports, but two people he contacted, which left a sour taste in my mouth, I'm not going to lie, was Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. If Jim Ratcliffe ever got Elon Musk to invest in Manchester United's new ground, at that point I would be like, yeah, Jim Ratcliffe, you're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. Because there's no way you can take money off. And I don't know if you guys agree with me. Maybe it's because it directly impacts me. But Elon Musk is openly racist. He's a lot of things in it. He's a lot of things. I don't need to sit here and tell you lot what he is. He's a lot of stuff. So if he genuinely needed money and that's where he turns to, I'm looking at Jim Ratcliffe sideways. Honestly, I'm looking at him sideways. Now, during a tour of Carrington, Jim Ratcliffe asked women's team captain Katie Zellem, this is last season because Katie Zellem has now left Manchester United, but this is last season. Jim Ratcliffe asked the women's team captain Katie Zellem what she did at Manchester United, despite her being a long-time player. Now, this is bad, guys. And the reason why it's bad is because, A, Jim Ratcliffe claims to have been a Manchester United fan forever. Season ticket holder, all of that stuff. Number 2, Katie Zellem is from the same area as him, right? Even though they're probably like 10 generations apart, right? Because he's like 100 years old. But what I don't understand is when you are doing this tour, and this is just me trying to be logistic, right? Wouldn't he have someone with him from his Ineos people, his United people, introducing him, saying, yo, this is this person, they are the captain. The fact that he went straight in and said, who are you? What do you do here? He probably thought she was like the kitchen staff or something. That's what I find weird, is why he doesn't have someone telling him who these people are. And by the way, Katie Zellem left Manchester United because she felt like, for many reasons, she felt like the time at United was over. She was Man United's inaugural captain. She was part of the 2018 team that returned. She was part of United's academy, and then she left to go and play professional football because United didn't have a women's team. But equally saying that, she also left because she felt like the new owners didn't care about the women's team. She said it in an interview. She said that it wasn't a priority, and not only was it a priority, it wasn't even an interest to them. And so she left. She now plays in America now. But I think it's weird as hell. And some people are saying it's not that deep. It is deep. Because as the owner, the least you can do, you don't need to know I'm not telling you to know everyone from the senior men's team all the way until to the under 8s. You don't need to know every single player. But what a good CEO or what a good owner or what a good leader looks like is someone that at least knows the heads of department, if you want to put it like that. It's like me today being the CEO of Apple, yeah? And I don't know who the head of data is. I don't know who the head of marketing is. I don't know who the head of finance is. And I go up to the head of finance, who happens to be a young woman, and I say, what do you do here? What's your job? I should know that because I'm the CEO. I feel like people are downplaying this because it's the women's team. It's the women's team. People are downplaying it. But as an owner, whether or not, and I think what doesn't help Jim Ratcliffe as well is that he's publicly stated many a times that he practically does not care about the women's team. I think that also leaving a bitter taste in everyone's mouth who follows the women's team. Then now seeing this, it's like, damn, this guy generally does not give two craps about the team. He has no interest in the women's team. He has no interest in even publicly trying to make it seem like he cares about the women's team. You know, behind closed doors, guys, I don't care what people do. But in the public eye, at least just look like you care about the team, or just act like you have an interest in it. You've never watched a women's game in the stadium. You've never attended one. You've been an owner for a year. You've not attended one game. Given the fact that Manchester United have hosted games at Old Trafford, at Wembley Stadium, etc., you have not attended one game. However, Omar Barada has. Dan Ashworth used to a lot. And this is why I say Jim Ratcliffe picks and chooses when he seems to want to be involved in the decisions at Manchester United in comparison to maybe when he doesn't want to be involved in Manchester United. And clearly it stems from, I think, the women's team. When it comes to the women's team, it's very clear as day. He wants no involvement. But if you want to order 100 stamps at Manchester United, it has to be signed off by Jim Ratcliffe. But the women's team, watching a game, that's where he draws the line. Knowing who the captain is where he draws the line. I don't know how you lot feel. Let me know below. down in the chat. But if we were to rate Ineos over the last 1 year, and that's taken into consideration, transfer windows, etc., where would you put Ineos's first year as official owners or minority owners at Manchester United, considering Dave Brailsford and his marginal gains? What do you know about football, mate? What do you know about football? Number one. Number two, taking into consideration Omar Barada being nicked from City, Dan Ashworth leaving, staying, we don't know. All the other appointments, Rene Hack coming in, Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in. By the way, Rene Hack is set to be part of Van Persie's coaching staff at Feyenoord. Crazy. But taking into consideration that, then taking into consideration Eric Ten Hag's situation, the Ruben Amorim situation, the shit show of what happened after the FA Cup final last year. If you don't remember, for about 3 weeks, there was many names flying around. Reportedly, Ineos flying around to Monaco, to here, to there, having meetings with people, with Tuchel, with De Zerbi, etc. All of that just to give Ten Hag an extension. All of that then to pay him to leave the club. Taking into consideration the Ashworth sacking, did they pull out of their Spurs sponsorship deal? Apparently they're set to pull out of, what is it, the F1 deal? I don't know. I don't really follow what Ineos are doing outside of Manchester United personally, or outside of football, because I know they sponsor rugby, and I know they sponsor F1, etc. I know they sponsor all of that. But taking into consideration all the factors that I've listed, and then also the Glazonomic side of stuff, what would you, out of 10, rate Ineos's first year? Because I think Manchester United need to get rid of the Glazers, and they need to get rid of Ineos. That is my opinion. My opinion is that I don't think Ineos will. I was never convinced, anyways, when Ineos were coming in, because the slogan that he had was "Put the Manchester back in Manchester United." That gave me MAGA vibes. That gave me Brexit vibes. That didn't sit well with me. I feel like he played on the heartstrings of being a local lad, which, you go to Old Trafford and you see many people from far and wide across England, across the UK, coming to watch Manchester United. And he made it seem like because he was a local lad, he was the right thing for Manchester United. And I always felt that if there was another club up for sale, he probably would have went and brought that club. I was never on the idea of Ineos. I accepted it because it was the reality of what we had at the time. We had to accept it, but I never was for it. But taking into consideration everything, I don't give them a great rating. I think there's been more hiccups than there has been. I can't think of, what can we think of that's positive? What can we think of that's positive that they've done so far? Like, if you lot can name me 3 things that are worthy of praise, let me know. Because they pushed Marcus Rashford out. I'm joking. Let me not be too loud. Assalamu alaikum, Mina. Wa alaikum salam, Emmanuel. I hope you're good. I'm a football fan before being a Liverpool fan. Even I'm shocked at the reports. It's a mess. Relegation won't help. It'll make it worse. The debt is too much. Then there's the Glazers. I agree. People calling for relegation don't realize what relegation has done to teams that have been in the Premier League before. And I'm not saying it's the same, but look at teams that have been relegated and have never come back. Look at that. Look at what has happened. 3 out of 10, poor recruitment, instant choices to keep Ten Hag when they weren't sure. Also technically took out 14 to 15 million plus on sacking and hiring managers. Nuruddin warned us way before about Ineos. Nuruddin been warning us. 0 is an insult to the number. Ineos deserve a -4. Damn. If SJR won their Chelsea bid, it would have been RIP to the Chelsea women WSL dominance. I think, had he won that, there you go. He literally said similar in his Chelsea bid. You can look it up. Let's look at it. I want to see it. Jim Ratcliffe, Chelsea bid. I actually want to see what he said. I can't see any quotes. Did he mentioned something about being a season ticket holder? Yeah, so he was a season ticket holder with Chelsea. I mean, it's very random to be a season ticket holder with a club that you don't support. He wanted to bring the Blues back to Chelsea. Big up to Riri in the chat as well. I understand if someone don't know all the players of the women's team, but if someone is on the board management, they should at least know the star or captain. I agree. You don't need to, like I said, you don't need to frequent games. You don't need to do any of that stuff. But you should at least, at the bare minimum, know the captain of the men's team and know the captain of the women's team. That's it. I don't expect you to be able to name me, Man United women's top 3 goal scorers in the last 3 seasons. I don't need you to do that. But what I do need you to do is know who the manager is and know who the captain is. It's the bare minimum. It's literally the bare minimum. And I feel like people are over exaggerating how bad it is. Or they're under exaggerating, how bad it is. Because I promise you, if this was anything else, for example, if he saw Tom Heaton in the corridor and he didn't know who Tom Heaton is, everyone would be like, how dare he not know who Tom Heaton is? I wouldn't know who Tom Heaton is. What the hell? We never see the guy. We never see the guy, but people would be making a big deal out of it. They would be making a big deal out of it. Now, I remember when when it came out that he was a season ticket holder at Chelsea, and he was a season ticket holder because it was local to him. But I'm sorry, you only play Chelsea versus United play at Stamford Bridge once a year. So what benefit would it be to have a season ticket holder there? What benefit would be to be a season ticket holder there? Clearly, he's got way too much money if he's just throwing around season tickets at everywhere. But then he wants to. I can't believe people who order food for Manchester United at Carrington have to run bulk vegetable. Hold on. Okay, guys, just for some context here, part of the Telegraph report was suggesting. I'm going to read it. I want to read it word for word. Bulk orders of vegetables at Carrington now require a sign-off. Firstly, why are you ordering vegetables in bulk? Like, don't they go off? Don't they go off? Like, how are you ordering? Like, if I buy vegetables, I have to eat them within a couple of days because otherwise that shit is going off, right? But the fact that bulk orders of vegetables require a sign-off at Carrington, number 1. Number 2, reportedly, the portion sizes in the canteen at Old Trafford for staff is now less or smaller, and there is less variety. So they probably went from having steak, chicken, salmon, every type of meat. They probably went from that to just having tofu. Like, they went from having all of that to just having tofu. And it's also been reported that the group property service teams at Manchester United are individually counting screws in boxes to make sure that none's missing and that the right amount is there. In my language, what we call that? We call that gacho. We call that starvation. What the hell? You're telling me that you have a 9 to 5 shift at Manchester United and half of that you're spending counting screws in a box because the owner said that you have to count the screws to make sure no one took a screw home. Are you having a laugh? Also, by the way, guys, they're being encouraged to send more things via email and less by letter, as stamps are too expensive, as are letters. You know what? The stamps thing, I hear it in it because, like, paying £1.50 for a first class stamp is kind of mad. It's kind of mad. And we live in a digital world. So I kind of hear that. But to imagine you come to work one day, guys, and your manager says, oh, today, I need you to sit here in this cupboard and count all the screws in every box. Nah, that can't be for real. That can't be for real. Out of anger, I would eat the screws. I would eat the screws. And now you have to take me to the hospital because I ate the screws. And now you have no more screws. Now you have to buy more screws. Because you said that I have to spend my working day counting screws. I'm sure there's better things to do on the property than to count screws. Because now what are you going to do when I ate the screws? What are you going to do when I ate it? And now you have to buy more. Now you have to buy more. Are you going to sack me because I made you buy more screws? You're the one that made me count the screws. It makes no sense, guys. It makes no sense. We need the permission to eat onions. Now, screw count is mad. Like, I'm actually deep in how Wild that is. Screw count. There must be better things for me to do at work than screw count. He counts them himself, Minna. He does not count them himself. I refuse to believe he sits there counting screws. Absolutely. The guy that lives in Monaco and doesn't pay tax, you want me to believe he sits there as a 70-something-year-old counting screws one by one in a box? Be for real. Come on, man. Come on. He don't do that. He don't do that. But the general consensus here is that it's not a good rating for Ineos. That's the general consensus. And looking ahead to, the games that United got coming up. This is United's games coming up, including the Europa League fixtures. Do you guys think United will win 3 games in a row before the end of the season? I was going to say at the end of the season we might, when no one has anything to play for. But this is our end of our season. In the Premier League, that's our last 3 games, 4 games, 5 games. Look at our last 5 games of the Premier League season. We actually might not win 2 Premier League games in a row. We actually have not won back-to-back Premier League games this season, and we actually might not. Look at our last 5 games of the season. We've got Bournemouth away, Brentford away, West Ham at home, Chelsea away, Villa at home. Let's not even focus on that. That's not even that far away, because we're about to go into March soon. That's really not that far away. The good thing is that when I'm scrolling, it's just showing me that the season is slowly coming to an end. Thank God. But if we look at the next 6 games for Manchester United, all competitions, Everton tomorrow, man. Ugh, I've got an eyelash in my eye, guys. But Everton tomorrow, yeah, it's just... I don't know. I don't know tomorrow, man. I don't know how you lot feel about tomorrow's game. Lenny Yoro is back from injury. Ugarte is back from injury. I don't know why Amorim reported this in his press conference, but he said Mount is, on his recovery journey. I don't know why you're telling us this. Are we going to see Mount play 2? If I see Mount play 1 90-minute game this season, I will gift 10 memberships on my channel. I'm just, I'll do that. If he can play 1 90-minute Premier League game, one. Luke Shaw, I challenge you to playing 3 games this season. I don't care how many minutes you play. If you could play 3 minutes this season, I'll give memberships. Oh my God, guys, I got an eyelash in my eye. Fucking hell. Ouch. Let me see what you lot are actually saying. How did we downgrade from Eric Ten Hag to Amorim? United moving like... Moyes masterclass and a Beto hat trick incoming. You know what, guys? Yeah, 12:30 kickoff and an early start to ruin my weekend. That's what I hate about 12:30 kickoffs. That is what I hate about 12:30 kickoffs, is that they are early starts. And I just never feel like I can't remember the last time we won an early start. I can't remember the last time that we won a game that was an early start. But just quickly on Amorim, actually, because someone just mentioned it down below, and I want to hear what you guys think. What do you guys think about these criticisms about Amorim? Because I genuinely think that there has been a lot of Amorim out noise. A lot. And I actually think if United do not win against Everton and Ipswich, and I mean win like comfortably, that noise is going to get louder and louder and louder. And I said this back in December. I don't know if you lot remember. I said this back in December that I could see Amorim walking. I said it back in December. Before the transfer window, everything. I said I could see him walking when he realizes, shit, this mess is a lot worse than, what I anticipated. But everywhere I go, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, wherever, yeah, I'm seeing these conversations of Amorim out. Every platform I'm going to. And I actually understand it, because I get it. When you are losing in this manner, when you lose in the manner that you have, the fact that if United lose another game, that's how many losses. I think he's got I actually think Amorim has less than 50% record in wins, losses, and draws since taking over. And the fact that United actually have been winning the last couple games, but we feel like it's been a loss. Let's look at this, yeah? This run of games for Manchester United, United only lost to Spurs. But yet every game felt like a loss. Every single game felt like a loss. Oh, we lost to Palace as well, sorry. We lost to Palace, we lost to Spurs. Every game that United won, Fulham, Rangers, Leicester, it just felt like a loss. It literally felt like a loss. And if we go further back, Brighton lost. Southampton we won. FA Cup we beat Arsenal. Liverpool we drew. Newcastle lost. Whoa, this run of games was the worst for me. Like this here was the worst for me. But I'm seeing a lot of people, and it's warranted. Can I just say, like, the most important thing is that this is warranted how a lot of people feel about Amorim. It's warranted. I can't sit here and say you are wrong for thinking that, because I absolutely understand every reason why people should feel like that. Just because I am not at that level yet might not be like, it's not the end all or be all kind of thing. Because I've mentally tapped out of the season. And I've said this time and time again. I didn't say this season was a free pass for Amorim. I said he had to get results. Man United had to finish with some sort of dignity in the league. That's not going to happen. But equally, I said that football is always going to be a results-based business. And when you ain't getting results, you cannot blame fans for getting restless. You can't, especially when it's inconsistent results. United will win one Premier League game, then go on a 3-game losing streak in all competitions or something like that, you know? Or they'll win games very unconvincingly. Like I've said time and time again, United have not won a game convincingly in the league since Everton on the 1st of December. And now we're playing them again. And they look like a different Everton under David Moyes. I think Ndai is out injured, but they still got good players. They've still got very, very good players. Football is a very result-orientated, and media is going to milk the negative narrative as it gets more attention. Even there have been studies that negative stories get more attention on social media always. That's always the case. And with United, you're going to hit triple platinum. You are going to go triple platinum. No predictions for tomorrow because you know what, guys? I got no predictions. That's all I get. I got no predictions in me. I can't predict anything for Manchester United. And I already say all the time this season that I hate predicting United games because United games, there's not much to predict. You just never know what you're going to get. But listen, guys, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe if you've been here all this time and you haven't hit the like button. Don't be a disgrace. Don't be a cheat. What we got coming over the next couple of games or the next couple of days. Let me actually open my stream schedule. What do we have coming up? Tomorrow, obviously, we got a match reaction straight after the Everton game. That will be about 2:30 p.m. UK time. Obviously, it's 12:30, so we'll do that. Depending on what the game is and what happens with the game, I might go live like later in the evening, but that's just dependent on that. We will obviously have match reactions across other games and whatnot. We'll probably have a match reaction for the Barcelona game later that day as well. And then we'll have some match reactions for both Newcastle versus Forest on Sunday and City versus Liverpool as well. So the content will be contenting. Be sure to hit the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe. This evening, I might actually do Make United Great Again FC25 stream. Because I haven't done one for a long time and I've got time today. So if you don't want to see that, let me know below in the comments now. Just say yes. It'll probably be later in the evening. But yeah, if you don't want to see that, let me know below. Be sure to hit the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well. Daily Dose of Minaman. You lot know what it is. We're trying to be consistent with the content. We're mixing it up, streams, etc. You lot saying yes. All right, you lot win. So we'll do Make United Great Again. I actually have not played it in ages, like on stream. I haven't played it on stream in ages. But listen, guys, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on all platforms right here, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. You can find me on all platforms, and I hope to catch a lot of you guys on the stream later this evening, man. Hit the like button on your way out, guys. I'm out. Peace.